North and South Seafood and Smokehouse presents The Kelly Sheffield Show on 100.5 ESPN and Wisconsin On Demand. Alongside Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball head coach Kelly Sheffield, here's John Audius.
It is The Kelly Sheffield Show. John Audius joined by Wisconsin head coach Kelly Sheffield. Brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse. Coach, congratulations on the win on Sunday Night Volleyball. Good to see you again. What I thought was interesting, after the match we talked, and you said following the emotional win against Oregon, why was that Oregon win emotional, that Friday night win against the Ducks, followed by the Sunday Night Volleyball against Michigan?
Quite honestly, probably all of them are pretty emotional, right? It was a hard fought win. It was a Friday night win, and then the next morning you're getting up and watching film immediately. You're having to switch right in and do a light practice, and then immediately get on a plane. So there was a lot happening kind of right there, and then you go to the east, so you lose an hour, it's not an easy switch that everybody is doing. I think we had a little bit shorter week, and so almost all of us was about Oregon, and there wasn't a lot of early prep on Michigan, and so you're diving in really, really fast. So you're losing sleep and just trying to get ready for a really confident Wolverine squad.
Yes, and you were able to beat Michigan. I want to go a little bit more in depth about that match, but congratulations on win number 305. I'm not going to bring it up too much. We'll bring it up one more time when I'll ask you about 306, but 305, why is that significant? You might be wondering why that is significant. It ties Pete Waite for the most wins at the University of Wisconsin all time. So congratulations on that. We'll talk more at 306. So to the Michigan Sunday Night Volleyball match, why were the Wolverines able to be so successful? They win the first set. Why were they so successful in the first?
Yeah, well, I didn't think we put a lot of pressure on them behind the service line in the first set. And they were in rhythm that entire first set, and they're running it really fast to the pins. They're incorporating a nice back row attack, a really nice slide, and so the match turned, I thought, when we started putting a lot more service pressure. And so most of the time we're giving them serving zones. We've got a serving plan that we go into matches, and we certainly did then. But sometimes you can tell your servers aren't, they're a little gun shy. I felt like that was the case, whether that was fatigue, whether that was, you're playing with a Wilson volleyball, whether it's, some of these places that you go to, you're playing with some balls that you go, they're very similar to what we play with. And there are some others that are very different. Maybe it's the arena. I don't know, but we didn't come out putting a lot of pressure on them behind the service line. So the second set, I just called off the zones, and I just told them, hey, all three passers are very similar. Go back here, serve your best serve. And, I don't really care who you're attacking, or just get into space. And I thought we came out in the second set a lot more aggressive with her serves. We kept that in the third set. And then the fourth set, once we had a really, really good handle of what they were trying to do, then we wanted to get into some different areas. And so we went back to the service calls. And primarily we were trying to we really wanted to try to disrupt their back row attack. And so we started serving in some other spaces to try to do a little bit of that.
All right. So second set, the serving, you kind of go a little bit different strategy there, and then switch it back. And you also mentioned the serving, the backcourt defense, and the block kind of started to gel. Can you provide some more kind of thoughts on, because it led to, by the way, 21 blocks, which is a school record for set match on point rally.
Yeah, it's a lot of blocks. It's a all right. So one of the things with when you're running a really fast tempo is it can really put pressure. Obviously, if you're in system, it can put a lot of pressure on your blockers. They were in system. We're making block moves, but we were getting tooled a lot early. And then sometimes when your offense is running really fast, on the other side of the net, your backcourt is jittery and they're trying to run somewhere rather than reading. But when you're running it fast, you can also get really predictable in the areas of the court that you're attacking. A lot of times it limits the range that you're able to hit. It's one of the things we set the ball a little bit higher to Franklin to allow her to go up and hit with range. She's got so many shots. The faster that you're running, it shrinks the court down, and you become a little bit more predictable. And I thought our blockers were doing a better job as the match was going on. It is finding out that timing, the tempo, the footwork, because we've got different footwork patterns as blockers compared to the tempo that's being run on the other side of the net. And we just started getting our hands in better positions and getting them over a little bit sooner. And our backcourt calmed down a little bit, and we made some really sweet digs as the match was going on as well.
Post game, you mentioned that Anna Smrek, she, by the way, 17 kills, 2 hitting errors, outstanding match, is season high in kills, season high in blocks. I think she had 8. But you mentioned that she had that tough match against Oregon when she had 9 hitting errors, and you said she had a rough serve and pass as well. So when you see someone, or maybe even a few players having a rough practice, how do you approach that as a coach?
I don't know. You were in that serve and pass. It didn't, I think, weren't you?
I was.
It didn't end particularly well. And, but that's part of it. It's there's, one of the things we just discuss is just, resilience and bouncing back. And just because you have a bad match doesn't mean that the next one's bad. Just because you have a bad set or bad whatever, you kind of think about, somebody that, a baseball player, if they struck out, it doesn't mean that they can't get on base the next time, or, you go 0-4, you see plenty of people go 3 for 4 the next day. And, it's typically it's just about, get back to being you. It sounds pretty simple, but you've done this a long time. It's one of the things, you think about the Oregon match, Franklin for 75% of the match had a really tough time. And, she got some kills late, but at the end of the match, she passed a 1.67 in that match, which is pretty low. A goal of ours would be you're wanting to be north of a 2.0, and so 1.67 is a pretty low number. And she got served, I think, the most on our team in that match, and I think she had 250, something like that as well. So both those numbers are really low. She got ace 5 times. The Michigan match, she passes a 2.5, gets served the most, hits 474. It's that's bounce back. Anna Smrek hits negative. That's so rare for her to hit negative in a match. And then she has a career high against Michigan. Our team, everybody else against Oregon, played really, really well. Our middles played well. Oz played well. Our backcourt was great. Charlie set a really good match. But 2 of our aircraft carriers had a tough match. And that's what a team is supposed to do, right? And then what do you do? How do you come back from not playing as well as what you want? Well, you get yourself ready. Make sure your self-talk is up. You trust yourself, and you go and you punch them in the mouth. And I thought Anna and Frank really responded well.
Okay, when we come back on the Kelly Sheffield Show, I want to ask you about Lola Schumacher, freshman libero, and we've got fan questions coming up from you, the listeners, the fans of Badger Volleyball, in a little bit. So keep it right here. More to come on the Kelly Sheffield Show. And back on the Kelly Sheffield Show, John Adi is joined by Wisconsin volleyball coach Kelly Sheffield, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse. By the way, fans, it is whiteout time at the Fieldhouse. The next home match when the Badgers battle Nebraska on Friday, November 1st at 8 o'clock. The first 6,500 fans will receive a Wisconsin volleyball white pom-pom. So keep that in mind. All right, so I wanted to talk about some of your back row players, specifically freshman Lola Schumacher. I had a chance to talk with her after one of the most recent home matches, and she said one of the things that she was working on was reading shoulders and hands and the set location and things of that nature. Can you kind of fill our listeners in on what it takes to be a good back row defender, and when she's reading shoulders, hands, and how close the attacker is off the net, those types of things, why that's important?
Lola has a really high motor, which I love. She's fearless, which I love. There's a go, 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 go to her, which is good, right? But there's such an element to the college game of reading, and you've got to put the work in to read, to see the right things. You just can't fly around all over the place. And I've been really pleased with it. There's been a transition that's happened with her, and she'll be the first one to say it. It's she's putting in more work to perfecting her craft of reading the game, of seeing the right stuff, and it's really paying off. She passed in almost a 2.4 since Big Ten play started, and it's and there's less holes she had some significant holes in that we were knowing, but our opponent hadn't seen enough of that. And, and early on, she wasn't putting that work in, I would say, to fill those holes up. But there's been probably the last 3 weeks, a big shift in how she's gone to work. And it's really shown up in a lot of ways. Her and Anne Marie have worked really hard. Her serve has gotten a lot better, a lot cleaner. It's in for a higher percentage. We're scoring points off of her serve now. It's statistically, she might have been our best passer in the past since we got in the Big Ten play. But if she's not our best, she's right there with Oz and Frank. And defensively, we've got her playing left back and right back. That's a tough thing to do. We're asking a lot out of her, and she's doing a really good job of carrying her weight, and just really been pleased with her progress.
When you were recruiting her, what's the story behind that? How did you get first interested in Lola? And then what did you like most about her when you were recruiting her?
Well, like I said earlier, you love her toughness. You love her spunk, her spirit, her confidence, her fearlessness, playing for a top club. And so you knew that she was going to get better. And that a lot of times the kids that go to that club, they're more prepared because there's a toughness behind them to play early on. And, there was an awful lot to like. Loved talking with her and her drive. I just think I just rattle off a dozen things I liked about her. There was a lot of things to like about her.
Yeah. How would you mentioned the passing and how she's been a great passer since Big Ten play started. How would you describe overall the passing from the start of the year to where we are now? And just kind of like, how would you rate that? I know you have the numbers, but how do you see the passing?
Yeah. I mean, John, it's unbelievable how much better the serving is. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's, I know there's times that probably, I'm sure fans are in the same place that kind of we are at times, like, let's go. And then you take a look back and you step away from the emotion and you're realizing we're right up there at the very top in the conference and in passing. Last night the match point, Gigi gets hit. With the serve. What is unbelievable is earlier in that day in our film session, I showed them a clip of Michigan getting hit by a USC server for match point in the 5th set. I showed that clip, and I'm like, don't fall asleep on this. And then lo and behold, a few hours later, it happens to us. And but you go back and you watch the film from the inline camera, and Lola is in the 6 zone. She's in the middle of the court, and that ball starts to her left, and she makes a move to her left. Well, Gigi is over on her right. So Schumacher is making a move on a ball that's going about 12 feet away from where Gigi is on the other side of her. And that you can see Lola making that move to her left, and that ball's lined up, and all of a sudden that ball starts going, and it's that serve is less than a second to get from serve to ground. And it just takes off over there. And it wasn't that she fell asleep. You just don't see that movement on the ball that fast. She's in a position to flow exactly where she's supposed to go cover on the right side of the court, and it clips her. She's just going to get out of the way fast enough. That had more to do with the serve than it had to do with either Lola or Gigi in that moment. Now, what we're seeing behind the serving line of some of these servers is just really, really gnarly. My fifth best server on this team would have been easily our best server my first year here.
Oh, wow.
And it wouldn't have even been close. We're seeing, you look back at a Micah Hancock serve, and it was so much better than everybody else's in the conference. There might be a half a dozen serves in the league that are comparable to that. And then it doesn't fall off that much after that.
That's a really good point. All right, keep it right here on the Kelly Sheffield Show. When we come back, I've got some fan questions for Coach Sheffield. That's next on the Kelly Sheffield Show. And welcome back. It is the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse. Time for fan questions. I put out a post on X asking for any questions from the fans. And here we go. We're going to rattle some off for the Badgers head coach. Start with Dan first. Trinity Shad series, he writes, was thrown to the Wolves early due to injuries to the regular starters. Yeah. How has she used that experience as the season has moved on, despite a lack of playing time?
It's, she's getting better, and that's what we're needing out of her. You're right. She was throwing the Wolves and gave us everything she got, but she wasn't ready for that. She knew it, and we knew it, but sometimes you don't have a choice, and her talent is, I wish people could watch our practices, because there are some times that she's just putting on a show in there, but it's, she's got to get more consistent, and she's got to get heck of a lot more confident, and she's got to be able to stack good days on top of good days. And she's learning, and that's exactly what we need out of her right now.
Yeah. It's pretty wild to see a 17-year-old against some of the top teams, top 5, top 10 teams in the country, right off, like the first ever time stepping on the college volleyball court.
Yeah. I mean, you think about football, you think about maybe some linemen or something like that. That's, they have a redshirt year and they do some really nice things in high school or something, but they get here and now you're playing against maybe one of the top, defensive linemen in the country, and you get forced in there because of injuries or something, and you're going to get manhandled, and what you're wanting them to do is just kind of stay with it, and and keep battling and keep fighting. But they've got to, that football player's got to get in the weight room, and they've got to learn the cleaner techniques, and we like where she's going to end up being.
All right, Adam on X asks, is there anything recent you've seen from another team that you've incorporated with the UW? Something where you say maybe like, that's cool, let's do that. If so, would you mind sharing what it was and where you saw it? He also adds, you don't have to give away any secrets.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any secret. I mean, we're stealing stuff all the time, because we're watching men's volleyball, we're watching women, international. Okay. Olympic matches. You're trying to see how the game is evolving. Does anything come to mind? I don't know. It's I wouldn't say there's anything that's just earth shattering at this point. I would say probably earlier in my career there'd be a lot more earth shattering. These are maybe a little bit nuanced of things. I don't know. One of the things I think you are seeing is you're seeing a lot more back row attacks than what you've ever seen before from teams. You're seeing a lot more spin serves, elite spin serves. And what you don't want to do is have a bad jump server, because really good passers can just groove that. You got to have somebody with an arm back there, and you're seeing a lot more of that.
Okay, Brian asks, how is the relationship between Charlie and Lauren? I asked you about this, I think against the Oregon match. What does the setter to setter practice week look like? So how's that relationship, and what does the week of practice look like now, having Lauren in there with Charlie?
That's great. I mean, I think those two have a great working relationship. Lauren is been where Charlie wants to go. Lauren has a great way of communicating. She's a great communicator. Her excitement and her love from the game, her competitiveness, her love of diving into film And so those guys have had some great film sessions. They both watch it after practice and communicate to each other on the program that we use to video share within our team. They've got a great relationship.
Let's see here. Eric asks, I'm reading this. How do you work with the team to put together more complete matches after, losing sets like you did against Michigan and Oregon? And then 2-part question with Charlie front row, how do you work more on overloads / attack options to be less predictable for a block?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're, losing sets is part of it. It's, not everybody's going to be the 2007 Penn State team.
Right.
The depth of talent and things are just so much better than what it was there. So many more better teams and things. And, it's, I don't mind, if we lose, hey, let's bounce back. It's our turn to go and punch them in the mouth. And so I don't sit there and think something's wrong. There's times we've got to play better. We got to play cleaner. We've got to change up the matchups. There's some things that we can do, but even the best football teams have teams score against them at times. The blocking, it's I don't know. Teams aren't hitting very high against Charlie. So I don't know if that's a massive problem, especially out of system. She's doing a good job. Or there's some holes in our blocks at times, not just with her, but yeah, it's especially when you're playing against 4 attackers. If a team's bringing 4 attackers, incorporating a back row attack, then they've got more blocker or attackers than you've got blockers. And that's giving a lot of teams issues. But at the end of the day, I think we're leading the Big Ten in hitting percentage. And, in conference play, we might be leading the league in opponents' hitting percentage as well. So there's things we can get a lot better at, but I don't think we're having major issues.
Real quick. Final question asked, no name here. I have tickets to the match against USC. Do you think it'll go 3 sets or more? Because I have to budget for a babysitter. So,
well, I'm sure Brad Keller is the one that asked that. He's the head coach of USC to give his team fodder to use against us. Here's what I know. That'll be a fantastic match. You may spend more time in the car than you do in the match itself because of traffic. But the more Badger fans that we have there, the better.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, John.
All right. There you go. Head coach Kelly Sheffield. Don't forget, we've got Badger Volleyball coming up this week right here on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network. First up, it's Indiana Thursday night, 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock first serve. Then Saturday afternoon from Mackey Arena in West Lafayette at 2 p.m. We've got the pre-match show, 2:30 first serve, Badgers face Purdue. Thanks, Coach Sheffield, for your time, and thanks for everyone for listening to the Kelly Sheffield Show.